morning, everyone, and welcome to Art Express Podcast. Today's podcast is hosted by AJ Resurrection. That's me. But let me first introduce our guest before we discuss our topic, protest art. First, we have Miss Agustin, Miss Diaz, Miss Lego, Miss Marzo, and last but not the least, Miss Revolado. I would like to start by giving info about our topic. When Art Becomes Decent is written by Elizabeth Ruth Deiro, and according to the article, a group named Ugat Lahi is a cultural organization of artists seeking for social justice and social change. They did the famous Roddy's Cube way back 2017. I know you all guys know that. And many more effigies. Ugat Lahi believes that art and culture have a big role in giving a voice to the marginalized social sectors. It supports cultural initiatives from these sectors, helping to develop their potential to recognize and realize their role in the country's future. Next was a feminist publishing collective named Gantala Press to publish the literary works, typically poetry and personal essays, penned by peasant women, migrant workers, low-income mothers, and women from the disadvantaged sectors. Third was Kiri Delena, who first became an activist before she ever began her pursuit of the arts. Her works deals with issues of political and social injustice. Now that we know the artists and kinds of works they do, can you explain what was your interpretation about the title When Art Becomes Decent and how it was reflected in the works of three artists?
Kiri Dalena's Binale in 2013 serves as our voice for justice. It points out the felonious and tragic incident that had happened in the year of 2009, which is the Maguindanao Massacre.
The film was played in reverse to tell everyone that if we can turn back the time, there will be no Filipinos who will sacrifice their lives.
The sculptures on the floor are the pieces of human figure that illustrated the time of Marcos' dictatorship, where lots of people were beaten and killed. By art, we can express our feelings, emotion, thought, and opinion without a violence. We all know that no one's perfect, even in terms of politics.
So that's why there is some Filipino citizen against with the flow of the governance here in our country. Why? Because one of the reasons is the word corruption, which can cause of protest to be heard in government our grievances.
The Ugat Lahi organization is a group of artists where the only aim is to use their talent to help every individual on telling their side, arguments and protest by the wrong system of our government. In every detail, side and angle of their art, you can see the reflection of the reality.
They fight for our rights and freedom to speak by the use of art. Yet the government and the society refuse to digest the message.
Thank you for that explanation, Miss Marza and Miss Diaz. For the other guests, can you assess the relevance of this kind of arts to the current situation in the Philippines? Is there an effect on the kind of practices that the artists do, or on the audience, consumers' way of experiencing these arts?
In today's world and time, where the pandemic is raging in our country, the pandemic has altered many of our routines. Most of our usual activities, such as meeting and gathering, have changed in recent years due to pandemic.
The kind of art that they are using back in times is not good for our health, and for those who have weak heart and lungs, that affects the people around them. And it is also not a good practice, especially nowadays that we are experiencing a global pandemic.
Virtualization has replaced the physical. The significance of these sorts of art to the current situation in the Philippines is that they reflect the genuine state of our country. But the pandemic has a major impact on artists and viewers who participate in these arts in the Philippines. It is undeniable that this pandemic has a huge impact on the whole world, particularly on artists. Artists who are used to physically collaborating in the development of such artworks are also affected by the pandemic, as well also to the viewers of this such kind of art.
It is challenging for artists who create this kind of art, and they are affected by the current scenario in the Philippines, where the pandemic continuously disseminating. Yes, pandemic has a significant impact on the types of practices that other artists engage in, as well as on how audiences or consumers experience art, because it is able to inhibit artists and viewers from engaging in practices that they may encounter in art.
In the pandemic that the Philippines is experiencing, individuals are not permitted to have a physical contact to avoid the spread of the virus in the Philippines. It is impossible for artists to unite and make such art, and they are unable to express their thoughts through their artwork.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I have here words and I want to ask Miss Agustin, can you share your thoughts on how these words relates for our today's podcast? The words are art, protest, social, change, political, collective, and personal. These words are related and significant to our topic because it helps us to have better perspective and information. Art can be a form of expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. Protest is a public expression of objection, disapproval, or dissent towards an idea or action. Social is relating to society or its organization, as explained in our topic for today's podcast. Change is to make someone or something different or to become better, like the aims of the artist in doing protest art. Political is they speak for the voiceless, they are bring awareness of injustices. Collective is all about unity or organization. We can also fight for the system. Personal, it communicates the life, experiences, emotion, or feelings of an art individual. Thank you, Ms. Agustin, for sharing your thoughts. As we end our podcast for today, here is my last question. What are your learnings about this kind of art, the artist, and your realization as an art student?
Learning this kind of art taught me more about our status as a Filipino citizen, on how art stands to fight for our rights over an authoritarian system and wrongdoings of the government.
I found out that art is not just an art. Art is applicable at all. By art, we can express our feelings, emotion, thought, and opinion without a violence.
When it comes to art, their artwork is truly an amazing art that expresses their feelings towards the government.
In this type of art, I learned that the style is distinctive and that they express their thoughts by burning and destroying their creations, which signifies and depicts their anger. My point of view to artists who create this type of art is that I admire them for being able to show and express the true state of our country. For me, there is another way to express your thoughts and perspective that is not aggressive and not potentially harmful to others.
Whoa, that was true. Thank you guys for guesting and being with me today as we talked about our topic and giving a clear, meaningful thoughts and information. To our listeners, thank you for listening to Art Express Podcast. With your host AJ Resurrection, we hope you enjoyed our topic for today.